Good morning, everyone. I'm Jane. Today we will share a topic of the footwear and apparel safety requirements in Europe and US markets. In our presentation, we will divide this topic into two parts, which are the chemical safety requirements and the physical safety requirements. In the end, we will have a Q&A session. Now let's start from the chemical safety requirement in Europe market first. Generally, there are regulations, acts, or specific standards for the product safety requirements. Here, we will introduce three important regulations in Europe. They are highly correlated to the footwear and apparel products, and they aim to protect the human health and the environment from different chemical risks. Now, let's see the detail of each. IEACH stands for the registration, evaluation, authorization, and restriction of chemicals. This regulation covers most of the consumer products, such as the textiles and footwear, toys and children's products, furniture, vehicles, electrical appliances, and etc. It also covers the chemicals and raw materials sold in the EU market. But food and drugs are not applicable for this regulation. There are other specific regulations for these two kinds of products. There are four important parts of the regulation, and they are shown in the regulation's name. In these four parts, the chemical suppliers are responsible to register the chemicals they sold in the Europe markets. And the ECHA is responsible for the evaluation. In the authorization part, the chemical suppliers should ensure that the high-risk chemicals they place in the US market are authorized, shown in the Annex 14 of the authorization. And the chemical users should check that if the SVHC of the candidates list are present on their products. The chemical users should also ensure that their products are compliant with the restricted substance limits of the showed in the Annex 17 of REACH. I believe most of us are the chemical users, and that's why when we talk about REACH regulation, we will focus on the SVHC and Annex 17. Here is the, especially the restriction of the REACH. We should pay more attention. By now, the database contains 69 unique substances or entries in Annex 17. And here is the link. You can check about the details. I want to emphasize again that we have to ensure that the products we place in the Europe market must comply with the restricted substance limits listed in Annex 17. Here is an example of the MPEO. These substances are listed in the entry 46A in Annex 17. You can see the limit of MPEO is less than 0.01% by weight of textiles articles or each part of textile articles. And there is another example of the CMRS in textiles. These substances are listed in entry 72, and it's a hot topic last year because it's officially implemented from November 2020, and its scope covers the apparel and footwear products. And the substances included in this entry are the extractable heavy metals, PAHs, phthalates, distops, formaldehydes, solvents, and etc. Now let's see the second regulation, POPS. POPS stands for persistent organic pollutants. They are the chemical substances that are persistent in the environment, bioaccumulates through the food web, and pose a risk of causing adverse effects to the human health and the environment. This is the background of this regulation. The regulation is originated from a protocol and a convention, and the current version is Regulation EU 2019/1021. The prohibited substances are listed in Annex 1 and the restricted substances are listed in Annex 2, but currently Annex 2 is empty. So at present, we will pay more attention on the Annex 1. Here we list out the substances listed in the Part A of Annex 1. You may be very familiar with these substances, such as the pesticides, the PCP, the PFOA, PFOS, the flame retardants, the SCCP, and etc. Most of them are restricted in many buyers' MRSL. Now let's see the third regulation, BPR. BPR stands for the Biocidal Products Regulation. As we know, biocidal products are necessary for the control of organisms that are harmful to human or animal health, and for the control of organisms that cause damage to natural or manufactured materials. However, biocidal products can pose risk to humans, animals, and the environment due to their intrinsic properties and associated use patterns. So we have the BPR regulation to standardize the use of these kinds of biocidal products. Here we list out 4 important definitions in the regulation. I will emphasize the definition of treated articles. Treated article means any substance, mixture, or article which has been treated with or intentionally incorporates one or more biocidal products, which means if the footwear or apparel products that claims that they have anti-mold, antibacterial function, then we will define these kinds of products as the treated article. We should pay attention that a treated article shall not be placed on the market unless all active substances contained in the biocidal product that was treated with or incorporate are included in the authorized list of the BPR regulation. Here is the link. You can check the details of the authorized active substances information. On the other hand, the person responsible for placing on the market of a treated article should ensure that there is a label on the product provides the information listed as below, which means if your products claim have the anti-mold or anti-biosis functions, you have to pay attention to requirements. First of all, the active substances present on your product should be authorized by in the regulation. Secondly, you have to provide a label on the product to show the information, 4-part information listed here. And then we will see the chemical safety requirements of the US market. As we know, there are 50 states in America, and they all have the legislative powers. So the acts and regulations are very complicated in this country. Here we will introduce a federal scope act, which is CPSA, and California State Act, CA Prop 65. For the other states, we will introduce USA state reporting requirements for children's products. Now let's see the CPSA now. CPSA is implemented by the US Consumer Product Safety Commission. We call it as CPSC in short. And CPSI stands for the Consumer Product Safety Improvement Act. This act includes two titles, and today we will focus on two sections of Title I, the Children's Product Safety, and they are the children's products containing lead and lead paint rule and the prohibition on sales of certain products containing specific phthalates. Here, we list out the restricted substances, the test method, and requirements of the two sections. Firstly, the first item is the total lead in substrate. The requirement is less than 100 ppm, and for the metal and the non-metal substrate, the test methods are different. And the second test item is the total lead in paints and surface coatings. The requirement is less than 19 ppm. In our operation, if the paint and surface coatings can be separated from the substrate physically, we will test these two materials separately. For phthalates, by now there are 8 test analyses in CPSA, and the requirement is each phthalate should less than 0.% by weight. And the second act we will introduce is the California Proposition 65. We can see the list of chemicals in this proposition through this link. The chemical list will be updated regularly, at least once a year, and by now there are more than 1,000 chemicals in the chemical list. We should pay attention to the warning requirement of the Proposition 65, which are the businesses are required to provide a clear and reasonable warning before knowingly and intentionally exposing anyone to listed chemical. And there are various means to show these kinds of warning. And the warning should be given for that specific chemical. Now let's see how to enforce the Proposition 65. Generally, the private citizen bounty hunters can bring enforcement lawsuits under Proposition 65, but they must send a 60-day notice of alleged violation before they can file a lawsuit. And this 60-day notice is designed to give companies 60 days to investigate the alleged violation and take corrective action. Here, we list out some options to deal with Prop 65. For example, we can provide clear and reasonable warnings on the product and online sales. We can also review the risk of exposure on chemical by a certified toxicologist and compared with relevant safety level. And also, we can choose reliable manufacturers and suppliers. And we can include the Proposition 65 in your testing program, and the test should be referenced with previous litigation on specific product types. Here are some additional options for the safe use determinations. The current market practice to deal with Prop 6 is focused on reducing risk in violating the law through two ways. The first way is being conscious on trend of product types and listed chemicals that have been targeted for enforcement. The second way is conduct testing to reduce the risk of involvement in future lawsuits. Here is the chemical trends in recent enforcement. For example, the lead, BPA, flame retardants, and other chemicals such as phthalates, chromium 6, cadmium, and etc. And for softline products, the products with high risk is the personal carrying products. For example, the handbag, the clutch, the roller bag, tote bag, and etc. And the second high-risk product is the gloves, especially the gloves or belts made with the leather products, made from the leather material, and also the footwear such as flip-flops or sandals. The PVC jackets, PVC rainwear are very high-risk products. Then we will see the USA states reporting requirements for children's products. In some US states, there are reporting requirements for children's products in them, and these reporting requirements will authorize a designated department to maintain a list of concerned chemicals. And they also require the manufacturers to report to the relevant authorities if the children's product offered for sale or distribution in the states contain these chemicals exceeding a certain amount of concentration. But the third-party testing is not mandatory. The details of the requirements in these states are different in many aspects. For example, the definition, the way of reporting, the scope, the list of chemicals, and etc. By now, there are 6 states maintaining a concerned chemical list for children's products. Here, we summarize the overview of these 6 states' reporting requirements. Before deciding that if your products if you need to reporting, you may answer 4 questions. Is your product defined as children's product? Is your product not under the exemption list? Is your role in supply chain obliged to report? Does the product contain reporting chemicals above the limits? If all yes, the reporting obligation needs to be fulfilled. I think you can answer these 3 questions very easily, but about the products containing reporting chemicals above the limits, you may need to do some testing to decide it. Now let's go to part 2, the physical safety requirement in Europe and US markets. Compared with the chemical requirements, the physical requirements is much more simpler. And let's see the Europe safety requirement first. There are 3 kinds of test items. The first one is the small parts, and the second one is the sharp point, sharp edges. And the test method is referred to EN 171 part 1. And the third test item is drawstrings. The reference standard is EN 14862, and they are all for the children's products, especially the drawstrings. If you joined our first session about the recall analysis, you may remember that the drawstrings occupies the highest position of the recall rates. And for US, the safety requirement is similar with the EU. They also have the requirements of small parts, sharp and sharp edge, and drawstrings on children's products. But in US, for the physical, they have another requirement of flammability. And for children's sleepwear, the test method of flammability is different from the adult products. Here we will have a video for your easy understanding of the test method for sharp point and sharp edges. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your listening to my presentation. Now is the Q&A part. Claire, may I know if there is any question?
Lovely, Jane. Thank you so much. That was fantastic. And yes, we have had some questions in. So please, guys, if you've got any more questions, please do pop them in the Q&A function. The first one that we have talks about recall trends, and this is something that I also think is very important. So when you talked about the CalProp 65, you started talking about recall trends, and the question is this information easy to find as in a trend or not, or is this something that we can actually help with?
Yes, actually we can check the previous litigation through the official website, and in the official website they will list out the previous litigation details. And for example, the involved product, the limits for the settlement. And also, we should have an expert team to analyze these acts. So we will have also some summarized for the specific products. So if you have any questions about your products, you can contact us, and we will have some research for you.
It's fantastic, and it's such great information, especially when you're looking at you know, creating new products and basically looking at lessons learned, so learning lessons from the mistakes and the errors from other people, so hopefully you don't have to do it yourself, which is great. Yes. Now we do have another question, and let me know if you want to answer it. I'm able to answer it, it's up to you, but and it's a very good question. It's also going to be a very long answer, I can tell you this one. So in our presentation it said we focused quite a bit on EU law, but is that the same for the UK? So is that the same law for the UK? And I think that's quite a really good question, especially because we're now, Brexit's finished, we're now the UK is now separated from the Europe, but you know, what is going on with legislation. So do you want to answer that one, or do you want me to answer that one?
Yes, the three regulations we shared today is also effective in UK by now. Yeah.
That's right. So it's a very long topic. We do have a lot of information on this for everybody. So if you want to discuss this further, please do get in contact with us. But yes, the UK adopted the EU law, and it's called the retained EU law. And the version that was adopted would have been the current version of the EU law at the time of the transition period had finished. So any updates made to European law after that date may not have automatically been updated and adopted by the UK. So that would have gone through, and that would be discussed in the BSI, who is the standardization body for the UK, and that would be discussed by the relevant technical committees, and then they would decide whether they will accept that update and publish it under UK law, or whether they want to publish part of it or none of it, or if there's any other amendments that are going to be made. As you can understand, it's quite a long topic there, and not everything is crystal clear, but if you do have any questions on that one, then please do contact us and let us know. Okay, right, we do have another question that's come through, Jane, as well. And it can look like there's not really much mandatory testing for a lot of items under footwear and apparel, especially for the physical requirements. And the question is the general product safety the only legislation that is applicable and mandatory for a pair of shoes, or is there, aside from chemicals?
I'm sorry, Claire. Can you repeat the question?
Yes, certainly. When we went through the physical and mechanical slides for European law, it doesn't look as though there is much there that's mandatory. So we can see on here, we've just got the general product safety requirements. And the question is that really the only mandatory physical and mechanical requirement that is applicable to something like footwear, or is there anything else? And is that, you know, it's I think it's because a lot of these sort of products, they have a lot of quality and performance testing than, you know, sort of like prescribed physical testing, don't they? So it's the question is there much other mandatory legislation aside from the general product safety and the chemical requirements of REACH and POP, for example?
Yeah, thank you. By now, for the safety requirements on the apparel and the footwear, they are focused on the children's products, such as per we listed in this slide. And for other performance requirement tests, they are related to the performance of the product instead of the safety. So so for the safety requirements, they are mandatory. At present, the mandatory test is listed in this slide: the small part, sharp punch, edge, and drawstrings.
Perfect, lovely. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
Right, well, looking at the time, that is time up for today. We do have another couple of questions come in, but what we will do is we'll get back to you on those questions after this webinar. So just as a reminder that this webinar will be recorded and will be available to view on demand via the TUFSA website, and we'll also be able to send you a copy of the deck once we've finished this and got everything converted. So I'd like to thank you all very much indeed for your time to join us with this. If there are any additional questions, please do contact us. We're here to help you. And if there's any additional information you'd like to receive, such as the recall trends and data, then we can organise that and also do that on our technical newsletter update. So thank you very much indeed for joining. Jane, thank you very much for a fantastic webinar yet again, and have a lovely day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.